What's up everyone, I'm Jason Bull and we are back on Allride. Today I'm introducing a new 3-part series we'll be doing on your bike setup. There's of course incredible value in setting up your bike correctly for the type of riding you want to do and your riding style. In this series you're going to be looking at your cockpit, your contact points and finally your suspension setup. Today we're going to kick off with setting up your cockpit. That'll be your bars, your stem, your headset and your brake angles. Your cockpit's obviously your first point of control with the bike. All your steering inputs go in through there, and the way you set it up will also have a great effect on your body position on the bike. Let's look at the essentials. First, we're going to have a look at your bar width. The wider your bars are, the more leverage you're going to have over the front wheel. This can become a limiting factor if you have narrower shoulders or if you're a smaller rider, where your arms are going to be too wide to have effective control over the front of the bike. Most trail bikes are now coming standard with bars that are 780 millimeters wide. This will probably be a ride for most average sized riders. If you are smaller, you might want to consider cutting your bars down to 760, maybe even 750 millimeters. To do this, you can do it with a pipe cutter or a hacksaw at home. If you're unsure, then just go to your local bike shop. They'll definitely be able to help you out there. Next up, we're going to have a look at the rise of your bars. This is how much they sweep up from the stem to the grips. Quite a high rise would be about 30 millimeters, and the lower end of that is 10 to 15 millimeters, or a flat bar. Increase in rise will give you more control and a more comfortable position on longer and steeper descents. Decreasing your rise will bias your weight forward over the front wheel, giving you improved cornering traction and a more aggressive descending position, though this could become quite tiresome on longer descents. In order to adjust the rise of your bike, you're going to need to purchase a new handlebar. So be sure to know what you're looking for before you do this, and definitely speak to your local bike shop for some advice. Finally, your bar roll. This is how much the bar is actually twisted forward or backwards. Rolling the bar forward will give you a more roomier feel on the bike and bias your weight forward onto that front wheel, which can improve your cornering traction. Rolling the bar back will obviously bias your weight further back, which you might find more comfortable on longer or steeper descents. Fine-tuning your handlebar setup will be determined by the type of trails that you like to ride. So if you are looking to ride steeper trails or longer descents, you will look at more rise, possibly rolling your bars a bit further backwards and maybe a wider handlebar. Another way to adjust the height of your cockpit is by adding or removing spaces underneath your stem where it attaches to the steerer tube. Increasing your height here will reduce the reach of your bike, so if you would like to preserve the reach of your bike while increasing your cockpit height, then look at going for more rise on your handlebars. When adjusting your headset, be sure not to over tighten or under tighten the headset screw. Do this by checking if your steering will still move freely and there's no play in the headset when you rock it back and forth. And just to reiterate the previous points, lowering your height here will increase your weight bias towards the front of the wheel, which will improve your cornering traction, but can be more tiresome on longer descents. Alright, having a look at the stem of your bike. The length of your stem will influence your weight bias as well as the nature of the steering that you experience. Shorter stems give a faster and more direct feel on your steering, which I personally prefer, while longer stems are slightly more vague in that regard. That being said, they will bring your weight a bit further forward, which can increase your front wheel traction and cornering performance. Most shorter travel cross-country and marathon bikes are coming with stems in excess of 80 millimeters, though this is starting to reduce as the bikes get a longer natural reach. For trail bikes, the optimum range is between 40 millimeters and 55 millimeters. We wouldn't really recommend anything longer than that. I personally prefer a 45 millimeter stem, which I feel gives a good direct feel to the steering. Your stem is also used to line up your bars with the front wheel. We all have that made to rides with skew bars. Don't be that guy. A helpful trick to get this right is to look down the back of your handlebars to the fork crown and try and line up both sides to have an equal distance. Finally, the angle of your brake levers is an often overlooked aspect of your bike setup. This has an influence as well on your weight bias, as well as your braking performance. Logically, you want to set up your brake levers for when you're going to need them the most, and that is descending. If you're riding steeper, longer descents, try raising your brake levers up a bit, making them flatter with the bar. If you're riding flatter trails more typically, then you can afford to drop them down slightly. If you find that your brakes are pulling you over the front of the bars quite a bit and it's uncomfortable, then you'll want to raise them up. Likewise, if they're pushing you off the back, then you might want to drop them down slightly. I found it helpful to set up my brake levers by resting my hand on the bar as I would in a descending position, and then setting the angle to where my hand would naturally go for the brake. This allows me to take my body weight on the palm of my hand when descending, which gives me the most support. Also, a factor of your brake setup is how close your brakes are to your grip. You might find that your hands feel quite cramped on the bar. You're not able to effectively one finger brake, or you're tending to try and brake with two fingers because of how deep in the brakes are. Or you might find your hands are sliding right into the inside of the grips because your brakes are quite far away. You want to set this up optimally so that you can effectively use one finger, but your hand isn't being cramped onto the bar or too stretched across it. With most modern mountain bike brakes, you should effectively be able to brake with one finger. If you're struggling to do this, you feel like you need more power, try increasing the brake rotor size. Chat to your local bike shop about that. Heavier riders will naturally need a more powerful brake to slow themselves down. Alright, we hope you found that helpful. It really is worthwhile to take the time to figure out your cockpit setup and get it dialed in just for you and your riding preferences and styles. This does take a bit of bike awareness. So yeah, try and focus on what you're feeling from your cockpit when you're out riding on the trails. This probably won't take much longer than 30 minutes or so, with a few tweaks here and there to get it dialed in, and once you've got it sorted, you probably won't have to adjust it again unless you're going to be riding something completely different. If you are unsure about anything, head to your local bike shop. They'll be able to help you with any questions you have and more complex tasks such as cutting your bars down. In the next episode, we're going to be looking at the contact points on your bike. That is your saddle, your grips, your pedals and your tires, and how to optimize your setup there. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled for that one. Let us know in the comments what you found helpful or if you have any questions. Keep it rubber side down. We'll catch you next time. Cheers. Shorter riders will find that if the bar is too wide, you don't have as much control of the front wheel because your arms are too wide bars. Next up, we'll have a look at the rise of your bars. This is how much they actually... Do you find your fingers start going a bit numb when it's really cold? Bang! Riding bikes is so much easier.